Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here today to take you further. Yesterday, we talked about a very important thing, which is belief. Yes? Are you with me? Belief is so powerful, and we saw it in its various forms, and we continue to see it even today. And it is a very important thing that belief follows on with another very critical component, very critical exercise, very critical practice, simply called focus. Without focus, you have the power of the sun going everywhere. With focus, just this much sunlight, about 5 to 6 inches across, about the size of a magnifying glass. Just that much sunlight can burn. Are you with me? Just using a magnifying glass that is barely 5 inches across to catch a very tiny portion of the sun's rays that hit the earth is enough to burn. Burn paper, burn you if you put your hand in it long enough. And that magnifying glass, that already exists here in your mind. That magnifying glass is what we call focus. All this energy that's in this room right now, tremendous energy, is sufficient for any one of you right now to achieve what you set out to achieve when you started this. But to keep this going every day onwards, that requires focus. So we're going to talk about focus, and before we do that, I want to talk to you about a man who represents all of what we stand for. A man who, when he walked on this planet, left footprints that continue almost half a century after he has gone. A man who still resounds within the vibrations of what we do as a company, because we, above all, have chosen him to be our corporate icon. Most people, or most companies, don't relate to such a term. But we wanted to bring together, when a world so diverse, so separate, that is so multicultural, multilingual, multi-religious, multinational, that's scattered right across this planet in so many forms, in so many colors, and so many other divisions. We need to find something that brings us all together. So looking back upon history, the one time that a man had done this without force, without bloodshed, without armies, he conquered the hearts He was not Genghis Khan, who ruled the mighty empire from the shores of the Pacific, almost virtually across the whole of Asia into Europe itself, the world's largest empire. Nor was he like Alexander, nor was he like Akbar or Ashoka, nor was he like any other ruler, dictator of his time, because he ruled without portfolio, without position, without title. He was not a politician. He didn't belong to any political party, as much as many political parties would like to own him. He didn't belong to any particular. He didn't acknowledge, nor did he belong to any particular division of mankind, because he saw humanity as one brotherhood. And he brought together, at that time, 300 million people that consisted of 500 princely states. And he brought them together at a time of great turbulence. And these 500 states, believe me, today we may see them as one nation. But they were so diverse and so separate at the time, it is almost difficult to imagine how diverse they were. Because in Europe, you drive from Poland into Russia, or from Germany into France, right? Or into Belgium, or into Netherlands. You may not understand what you're reading, but you can read it. Because the script is still Latin, it's Romanized. Are you with me? But when you cross over into Russia, for instance, you can't read it anymore, because you're now different, not only in language, you're different in script. Are you with me? And that means there's like a barrier that goes through those places. If you find a nation that has a common script on one side, and on the other side having no common script, the natural assimilation is on this side. Are you with me? Because they have a common script. Simple as that. So that means in this nation, they didn't have common scripts even. In China, the emperor, the first emperor, Shi Huangdi, who conquered the whole of China, he basically burnt all the books of every other language except Mandarin. And it's one way to unify China. And that's what he did. Are you with me? I'm not making this a history lesson, but I'm trying to convey to you what a tremendous task this was. He brought together these 500 states and made a great nation today called India. Thank you, thank you. Right. I haven't finished. You might not like my next statement so much. Despite the fact, historically speaking, despite the fact that he is looked upon as the father of modern India today, and of course I am referring to none other than Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the Mahatma. Despite the fact that he is looked upon as the father of modern India today. He traveled from India to England to study on a British document because there was no India at the time. Hence, he was born as a British subject. Are you with me? From India to South Africa after his graduation, again as an English subject on an English document. In South Africa, he fought for the emancipation of the various races that were at that time suffering under the apartheid rule. He woke up and he fought. He took on a cause that he considered his own. And it is there that he truly became into his own. That he truly changed. Are you with me? And again from South Africa to India, he traveled again on a South African document. At no point, because India was never formed at the time, did he ever travel on an Indian document. At the time India was formed, he had serious opposition because he did refuse to accept the partition. In fact, it was his plan to go live in Lahore, to bring back, in his mind, India as one. And that was his purpose. So he never took any citizenship either. So for India to claim him to his own would be quite difficult. Because he carried a British document most of his life, a South African document for a latter part of it, never took on Indian citizenship. But India is not defined by Kanyakumari and Kashmir. So, let me say this to you. As Mandela said this in the Indian Parliament when he was invited to address, he said, "You gave us Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and we gave you the Mahatma." Let me assure you, it's very hard for India to claim him because there is 187 countries across the world that have Gandhi on their postage stamps. There is a Mahatma Gandhi street in almost every country you can think of. Even in Australia, definitely in South Africa, not just in India, but right across the world. If you go, it's amazing. A number of years ago, I was watching a National Geographic, and they were in a little classroom in Africa. And this is somewhere in Central Africa. And up there in that classroom, they had pictures of great statespeople. Are you with me? They had their prime minister of their nation, they had their people of their country, and they had Mahatma Gandhi. And when we came together as directors of this company, the one commonality that we faced, when we discussed the future of what we were going to do in this company, and we discussed where are we going, we tried to find a common person that would inspire all of us. Are you with me? Yes. And almost by accident as opposed to incident, every single one of us, the initial 12 people who came together, every single one of us were in awe of Mahatma Gandhi. "12 people 8 passports, 8 nationalities out of 12 people, and not a single Indian passport. And we were all in awe of Mahatma Gandhi. Why? Because his language was a universal language. He respected all religions. He respected every human being. And he spoke on behalf of mankind. So if Gandhi belongs to anybody at all, he belongs to the whole planet. And that was his creed. That was his credo. When he went to England, and he went to England to basically argue for independence, because he refused the path of violence. He went there and he went to visit, amazingly enough, that he thought not just about the political interest, but of the social and the interests of the people who were deeply affected by what was happening in India at that time. Because at that time, he was championing the cause of not buying anything British. So India was one of the largest consumers of the British market. And when India refused to buy British, factories in Birmingham and Manchester were being shut down. Now, when Gandhi came, he did not just think of India as Indians alone. Can you imagine? He went to these factories, he went to these people, and he says, be by my side, share our feelings. You just came out of the shadow of World War II. You came out of the shadow of a man who wanted to colonize England, and you know what it feels like to be in that shadow. Understand us, be with us, share with us, fight with us, so we can be free. And you know what? They did. How did they do that? Because Winston Churchill, the man who was very staunchly in favor of the empire, the most popular prime minister England ever had, because of the fact that he brought them out of World War II, lost the next elections. Simply because of one thin, scrawny little man with a white loincloth who walked across England, and his love was felt even there. And he lost. And India won. And then the independence road began. And how did he do this? By appealing to his fellow men. From the heart. He spoke always from the heart. Now, I was born many years after he had left this planet, and still he remained in our house a central figure. And I'm a third generation Malaysian. I'm born here. But yet, if there's one thing that brought that common unity, that respect, it was Gandhiji. So you might wonder, if you go to the QI building today, and it's still being finished, and perhaps when you come back for another VCon here in Malaysia, you'll be able to come and see what is already there. A life-size statue of Mahatma Gandhi right at the very entrance. Not because he is Indian, but because he belongs to us all. So we have over 40 offices worldwide. I think the figure is around 43 or something like that. And right across the world, whenever a QI employee joins, they get orientation. And they get to understand our culture, They get to understand why we are the way we are. They get to understand who we are. Are you with me? Are you with me? And it's amazing that the networkers here don't know this yet. So I'd like to share with you the first part of the orientation of the QI group. For every employee, we have over 1,000 employees right now directly employed by us, and if you extend that to all the publicly listed companies, it goes closer to 5,000. And they get to watch the life of their corporate icon. I give you the first part of the orientation of the QI group. Mahatma Gandhi.
For I can see that in the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists. In the midst of darkness, light persists. Hence I gather that God is life, truth, light. He is love. He is the supreme good.
So many great leaders have dedicated their lives in search of the truth. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, known to the world as the Mahatma or Great Soul, believed his life consisted.
The reason why I want you to see this is because there are many lessons that he left us with, many lessons that we can learn. And we have come here as students, have we not? One of the most powerful lessons that he left, that I would consider to be the single most powerful lesson that he has, that can be attributed to him, is one of focus. Gandhi, if not anything, was completely focused. It is a very powerful lesson to learn. Are you with me? Focus. After belief, the next step is towards focus. Once you have believed, now you need to bring your energies together. You need to identify your goal. You need to know where you are going. And then you have to put everything that you have to get there. The beauty in his life is that his focus never changed. His focus was to basically, whether it was in South Africa when he began, or in India, was essentially freedom. At that time, it was freedom from tyranny. Today, it is purely freedom economically, but freedom nevertheless. It is the same freedom. The battle has changed because the world has changed. World today is not one of nations finding themselves, but rather the nations finding that we share one common planet together. Just as 500 different states came together because they shared one subcontinent and realized the power of coming together. Because if you actually, like I said earlier, in Europe you can actually cross countries and read. In India you can travel 500 kilometers and you are totally, in a different place. You can't either speak the language, understand it, read it. Are you with me? If it was not for English, the North and South wouldn't communicate that well. Amazing how the British had to leave their legacy behind. But the issue is not one of English, because I think today there's probably better English being spoken in India than in London. However, you got to hear the Cockney speak English. It's very interesting. Now, the point though is, we all share one planet, man. And global warming is an issue that we face. A thing that happens in one country affects another, and we cannot avoid it. Are you with me? Now is not a time for us to basically concentrate on our own little plot of land. Even here in Malaysia, for instance, we have basically something akin to smog. It happens because we are surrounded, by countries around us, like Indonesia and so on, where they're clearing land, and in order to clear land, they burn the forests away. And as they burn the forest, Kuala Lumpur is covered. You can't even see sometimes how to drive. Are you with me? Likewise, anything that happens here affects the next country and so on. We are all bound together. It's time for us to wake up and recognize the reality of what we have been saying here in this place for the last few years, because truly understand this, we are one. So the beauty of what Gandhi brings to bear is his focus. When he was focused, he stayed focused. When he arrived in the shores of India, this is already somewhat in the 1930s or the thereabouts, 20s actually. So it took a good 20 years of battle. And before that, in South Africa, another 10 or 12 years. Are you with me? To stay focused for that long, to go to jail, to be prepared to pay any price to achieve what you want, to achieve, actually, for him, it was not about what he wanted, but it was in service of a principle, an idea, a belief. And he was prepared to do anything for that. Are you with me? How much more can that be in common than with what we do? Because ours is exactly that, a principle, an idea, a concept that we believe, that has freed millions across the world and continues to do so. This is a world that cannot rely on manufacturing to provide jobs anymore. We have gone beyond that. Are you with me? This is the arena where services have to kick in. We have to find and create our own employment. And working 9 to 5 for anyone else will never, ever set you financially free. Never. Are you with me? You basically move from an iron collar when you're working as a laborer all the way to a velvet-lined silk collar when you're working as senior management. No difference. You want to break free of the collar, you have to start working for yourself. Are you with me? Yes. Are you with me? Yes. And Gandhi, he had a different collar to break, and that was one of tyranny. And when his focus was moved, or attempts were made to move it, he always kept bringing it right back. The reason he agreed to leave South Africa was because what he had fought for, he had achieved. And when the Governor General at the time gave him an ultimatum, I will give you what you want, what you had fought for, but you leave. He accepted that immediately because his point was, his focus was to achieve exactly what he did achieve in South Africa, a limited amount of independence that laid the foundation later for many other great individuals to come along, such as the incredible Nelson Mandela himself. But he never wavered. Neither can you. Are you with me? We use Gandhi as a focus because we look upon his life and say, this is something we can learn from. This is something we need to do. This is something we must do. In fact, this is something we simply have no other choice but to do. It is the only way forward. It is complete focus. Can we come together to understand this? And I'm going to take you to the point where you get to understand this. Are you with me? Yeah. Are you focused back there? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Over there? Yeah. Let's stay focused a little while longer. Because you have come this far. You have sacrificed this much. You need to carry back. You need to take back the energy. You need to take back the focus, because this focus must sustain you again for another 12 months. Are you with me? Now, it's incredible how great minds think alike. Whether it is Gandhi or whether it is a whole bunch of other people, i.e. Bill Gates, for instance, or Steve Jobs, for instance. If you take a look at what they write about, if you take a look at what made them into who they are, you will always find inside of that the concept of focus. All right? So I have another short video that I'd like to give you. Can we do one more video? Yeah. This is basically an address that I found very powerful. It was given at a graduation. It was given at the graduation of one of the great American universities by Steve Jobs. And basically, it's a very powerful, very short clip. I'm not going to give you the whole thing. I'm just going to give you what he says in a very simple clip. And basically, what he says is, I think the simplest way to put this forward is to say that if there was some way or form that I could reach out to you and wake you up, then he has done it brilliantly. So I'm going to let him speak for himself. So imagine right now that you have your whole life ahead of you. That you are basically at the beginning of the rest of your lives. This is your graduation, so to speak. And in a way it is. I did talk to you about rebirth, did I not? You are going to go back a different person. And there are certain attributes you need to learn to apply, then this is it. All right? So I'm not going to give you the catchphrase, which is the term used to describe this speech, but we are going to all remember it afterwards. Pay very serious attention to this man as he shares his life with us. All right? So I give you Steve Jobs.
Work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to
stay hungry, stay foolish. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And we walk around saying we are mad. We are more in sync. The same thing that I have said many, many times over, so brilliantly put forward by this man who basically turned the world around. Are you with me? Anybody here who never heard of the iPod? Look at that. Isn't that amazing? But his philosophy is essentially the same. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And he says, live every day as if it is your last. Every day as if it is your last. That means what? That means you have to be totally focused. You cannot afford to waste time. If you felt today was your last day, would you live it the way you lived it? Look back. Look back every day, he says. And every day that he feels that he has not lived that way, he wants to basically strike out. And when it adds up to a few days of him not having lived that way, he knows that he's living life the wrong way. Are you with me? Yes. Very simply, you have to stay hungry. Because a hungry man is a passionate man. He's an angry man. You know how easy it is to become hungry when you're angry? Or when you're angry when you're hungry? It's very connected. And you need to be passionate about what we do. We need to believe, right? But most of all, he also says, stay hungry, stay foolish. Foolish, why? Because stop living other people's lives. Stop living what other people think is great or what other people think is success. Stop living your lives as if it has already been mapped for you. Take back control. As I said yesterday, this is your life. Live it. The only way that you can stay focused every day is to remember what you want to achieve. Because if you allow it, life will get in the way. If you allow it, all those little challenges, all those little problems, everything that we are facing right now will get in the way. If you allow it, everything that you are doing today will only be things that lead to handling short-term goals. There are critical things that we do and important things. The critical things are rushing to pay a bill, dashing to finish your workload, completing what needs to be done today, and your critical things fill up your whole day. And before you know it, it's already the end of the day. Now, what have you done today that's actually important? What have you done today that will last a year? What have you done today that would last 5 years? Most of everything that we do today dies today. Are you with me? I have said this many times. Your obituary is already written. The newspapers have it already programmed. Born 19-something, and if you die today, died 20-something. Yes? And it's over. They're going to put their beloved father, beloved son, beloved mother, beloved daughter, beloved sister, something or the other. It's just another click. The mouse just moves. Click, click, click. Put in your name, finish your date of birth. What else are they going to say? Is it not sad that the number of people that turn up for your funeral will depend upon the weather? Are you with me? Is it not sad that the number of people who turn up for your funeral depend upon the weather? But sad, but true. You need to wake up. See, everyone, every single individual sitting here, these 10,000 people, every single one of us are heading in the same direction. We are all going to die. There's absolutely no way around it. The only question is how and whether we have achieved anything in between. Are you with me? And if you actually live like that, you wouldn't live the way you are right now. See, he does. So does Bill Gates. So does, for that matter, Narayana Murthy, the Ambanis. You think success just falls on your head? It doesn't. To be successful one time, it's possible. To keep successful for 10 years, then that cannot be just luck. Are you with me? We are here for 13 years. Nobody can call us lucky. So the trick is to understand what drives us, what drives them, what drives that 1% of humanity that are so different from us. You know, they are living in a different place, but they understand each other. They are driven by common forces. If we can understand those forces, we would change. Would we not? And we need to change. One of the most powerful things that can cause us to change is this understanding of death. And he put it very nicely. He says one of the best, most powerful things in life is death. Because death wakes us up. Death woke me up. As much as 15, 18 years ago, I had just come back from studying abroad. After 13 years abroad, I had come back, and we were just settled into working. And working life, you know, gets very comfortable after a while because it's on automatic mode, you know. You don't have to think anymore. You can function without having to think. It's one of the unfortunate results of working life. And I had come back with a very good friend. And basically, this friend lived very close to us. And just like my partner Japa and I used to go for walks, this friend always used to try very hard to get me to go out to run. He gets up every morning and runs, 5 or 6 kilometers. Amazing as it may seem. At least it was incredibly amazing to me. But he does that every morning. And he was incredibly fit. And he took it upon himself to turn up every morning and bang on my gate to make sure that I go running with him. Are you with me? So some mornings, because, the banging on my gate becomes a guilt trip. And I feel a little guilty, so I crawl out of bed very slowly, sleepwalk downstairs, and then join him for a short run. He runs for 6 miles, I walk for 2 miles. So when he runs back, he can catch me. I'm still following slowly. Then the good part of the running is we both, go and have coffee and breakfast. And because, I had walked for 2 miles, my guilt is over, I can have a really good breakfast. But anyway, it was, we were good friends. We knew each other for years before we came back. And this is when I was about 32, all right? And one morning he comes, it was a public holiday, bangs on the gate, says, let's go running. It's a public holiday, Baba. I mean, holidays are where God gives us a chance, to sneak past and sleep till noon. He bangs on the gate incessantly. And, okay, public holiday is one thing. It also was raining lightly. Can you imagine? It's a public holiday and it's raining. Now, who wants to run? Don't put up your hand. So, I had a tough time. I almost made it. Just as he was banging for the last time, I crawled out of bed, pushed the window out, took one eye, looked out over there, and he was still there. And then I said, I'm coming. And I turned around, and the bed was right in front of me. You know how inviting a bed is at that time in the morning? I said, I will close my eyes for 2 minutes. Then I will join him. But I just remember closing my eyes. Then a couple of hours later, I had a frantic banging of the gate again. I woke up and came down, and it was his wife. And essentially, at the time, I came down and said, what's going on? And she said, he hasn't come back. So, I went out thinking, well, maybe he got held up at the coffee shop, where we have breakfast, Breakfast could have been better this morning. So we went over there and without still connecting with anything, went to look. And when I turned up at the coffee shop, there was a crowd. A bunch of people moving around, and then they saw me and they said, you just missed it, man. And said, what did I miss? Somebody got, hit by a truck as he was just crossing over. And they described him. I dashed to the hospital. And he was only 32. Now, he had 2 kids. And he hadn't made any serious plans because he was very confident that he would be living for another 20 or 30 years. The same confidence that we all have, that we are all guilty of. The same arrogance that we are all guilty of. Which is why it's so powerful to remind ourselves that today could be our last day. Because I guarantee you, he for one never knew. That was a wake-up call for me. I had to wake up to the fact that I did not want this to happen. And if it were to happen, I did not want to leave my family and those that I loved in that state. And I had to do something. And the part that I was working on at that time, because I was in a 9-to-5 job, I had done everything that was supposed to be done. At the age of 32, I was a general manager and I had a company with 800 people underneath me, which by the normal classical reckoning of life is good. But you know what? It wasn't enough. At the same age of 32, Alexander the Great had conquered 1/2 of the planet. At that same age of 32, Shakespeare had written sonnets. Beethoven had written most of his work. I certainly wasn't living my life like they were. And I had to ask myself, am I so different? Why can I not do this? Why should I not do this? I certainly wasn't born to die just like that. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be mad. I wanted to stay hungry and stay foolish. And that led me to a decision. It took me a while to come to the decision that I would walk away from my job. And it took me a couple of years to gather enough courage to do that. But I did. I turned and I walked. My family, my parents, and everyone else who were very much in the so-called classical orthodox way of life looked at it as if I had gone stark, raving mad. Why would I walk away from a great job and go and do something crazy like network marketing? But today, they come here and they celebrate with me. But it took a death for me to wake up. And I say this to myself every day. I say this to myself every single day, that today must be a day worth living well. I took the words that Steve Jobs put out, but he basically put it in a different sense to emphasize death. I chose to emphasize life. He says, today could be my last day. I'm saying today is a day I'm going to live darn well. Today, he chose the sword to hanging over your head. The sword of Damocles, it's known as. Damocles being a Greek king who sat every day for dinner underneath a sword that hung over his head, tied by one length of hair. And why did he do that? Because such is life, be it that of a king or be it that of you. Are you with me? So, I say unto you, today is the day that you live well. Today is the day that we live well. Can we try it? Today is the day I live well. And if you say that and keep yourself focused every day, I give you my guarantee that your life will change. Because now I've showed you two great people in different spheres, Gandhi and Jobs. Brilliant in their own way and who lived. And when they lived, they were called mad, I guarantee you. But let me show you what focus can do to the simplest person. The power of focus is it is virtually unimaginable. Because you can achieve just about anything that looks even impossible for the average person. But because they want to do it, there are people who risk their lives, who risk injury, loss of limb for something as crazy as that. They risk being paralyzed for life, but they just want to achieve a moment of glory. If they can do this just for a moment of glory, can you not do it to change your lives. I show you what can be done by focus. I'll show you what people are willing to do to achieve just that moment of glory. A moment that is forgotten. These are nameless faces and nameless incidents. Nameless acts of random risk, but tremendously exciting. People jump out of planes, yes? They climb mountains, they jump out of planes, they go whitewater rafting, you have it, this, that, and the other, just for that elation. But it has to be done with great focus. It takes tremendous practice and it takes tremendous effort. So this simple people right off the street can do this, then anybody can do this. Let's look for a moment at what focus can do. Now, that's just kids. But I can take you further to where it is really risking life. This is just kids. This is how it begins. And then they go further where they actually begin to risk life and limb. And there are unimaginable things that they are able to achieve. And I'll get you, if you're good, you get to see a bit of that. But just look at this. Is it not amazing? You already had people in the audience going like, wow. Now if they can take that same energy, that same continuous practice, that same effort, and take that and apply it every single day towards something that really makes a difference, then they can leave a legacy that their lives would make meaningful, and their parents and their community, their nation would be grateful for. The difference is the effort is the same, the focus is the same. You just have to turn that same desire towards what you want to achieve here. Are you with me? Yes. Anything can be achieved. You just have to desire it, and you need to be focused to achieve it. Focus, and then more focus, and keep on focusing. And the world can be yours. The power of focus is so tremendous. You know why? Simply because of what we have been blessed with. We have here a mind that we barely use. They say Einstein possibly used 5%. Possibly. Depending on how they work out the mathematics, it ranges from 5 to 1. So what does that mean you are using? Einstein is considered to be one of the most brilliant men that ever lived. How does that leave us? So what we have here is this tremendous tool, this tremendous gift that God has given us, the brain. If we were to actually dissect it and take it out, I guarantee you one thing, your brain is not going to be any lighter or heavier than that of Einstein. So why did he give it to us? Was it one big major mistake? Because there are no mistakes in the master plan. There's simply no mistakes. He has given us this tremendous gift. It's here. We just need to learn to utilize it. Then even the most incredible task, the most toughest task becomes possible. We need to do it every day. We have to stop looking for excuses.